What's up, everybody? Axe Wizard here, back with working on my game some more, Neurality 3092. Let's just jump in and I'll show you what I've done. So, I've done a few things. You can see that like ships now like appear out of the place, they'll go about their business, and then we also have ships coming in and like landing. And I have like ships like spawning every now and then. You also notice I have a lot more UI stuff over here that I'm kind of working on. You see the ships kind of like disappear, like they'll shrink as they land. And let's see, let's wait for, I also got minimap markers updated, so you can see that I got a lot more stuff happening. So you can see I have the planets on the minimap. There you go. I also have friendly markers on there now, so you can see this guy is actually part of my faction Bros, which is pretty cool. So this guy's going to come in and land. He's going to land on the moon, which should be pretty funny. And there he goes. Whee! So I had something like spawns a ship like every 5 to 10 seconds just for fun, and you know, a ship will either spawn on a planet and it will ascend out of the planet and then go about their business, or they will spawn outside and they'll just go in and they'll try to land on a planet. That's what I've got so far. I also made it so if you attack them while they're moving, then they will stop focusing on moving and then they'll actually try to attack you. So that's what I'm doing here. Before, if the ship had state move, it would just keep moving. It would just ignore you, even though you were beating the crap out of it. It didn't care. So that's cool. So, let's see. How many ships do I have? Boom, boom. So let's go ahead and... So you see I've got red markers, and I got green markers. These guys are going to shoot each other. I'm going to help this guy out. Also fixed a bug with explosions, because they were always like at 100% no matter what you did, and that wasn't quite right, because they're supposed to be positional audio, so I fixed that bug as well. But after we blow up this ship, you're going to see my buddy up there. He's going to go back to what he was doing. God, the ship has a lot of health, man. Aren't you dying? There we go. Finally. So now, if we go back up and see if we can catch our buddy over here. So he's going to go back to what he was doing. He was going to try to go out and like hyperspace or whatever, which I don't have done yet. Like he'll go out and he'll go to the spot where he's supposed to be, and then he'll basically stop and then he'll just disappear. Because right now I just have him being deleted. But that's what I got going on there. So the game's starting to feel much more like a game now, which is pretty cool. I also tweaked a lot of the values for some of the ships, because I noticed that like when I was playing the super tiny ship, it felt like all the big ships could catch me. So I slowed down the bigger ships quite a bit. Like the really huge one, like this guy was super fast for some reason, even though he looks like he should be just this ungainly piece of trash ship. But now he moves super slow, so I can like zoom right past him. Whee! So he's going full speed. I'm just like, I'm going full speed. Pretty cool. But yeah, so that's what I've done. You can see here on the UI, I added a bunch of stuff. It's not pretty right now. It looks too busy, so I might see if maybe I can create some simple icons and maybe condense those. And also if you have like the UI doesn't like scale properly, so if I go full screen, you can see like my UI drops down to the bottom, which is weird. And then if I decide that I'm going to use a different ship, so if I go down here and change my ship from ship 1 to ship 6, which is my big one, you can see like it just takes up the whole thing and it pushes my mini-map off the screen. Because I've got so many weapons here. So I have to find a better way to handle this. So I'm still working on that. What did I just do? Invalid get index. Fire weapons. Okay. So I just found a bug too. So that's cool. Let's see what I broke. So let's see. Invalid get index faction. Okay. Yeah. So I also fixed a thing to where you can't shoot members of your own faction anymore. So right here, it's like, I thought I covered this though. If selected is not location, then it should be a ship. You know, we'll just change this to is, and then what we'll do is we'll just de-indent this, and we'll say, this is not a ship, do nothing. And, oh, I can't do that, because if I return, then we won't append, we won't append, and then we won't actually fire. That's a problem. I don't think there's like an is not, is there? Unexpected, 2 consecutive operators. So before I tried to do like if selected is ship, but because you can't do a cyclic reference or whatever, so where, because this is ship code, this is my ship script, and if I try to do like, you know, is ship, so let's indent this again, let's get rid of this, and if I just say is ship, so this should fail. Yeah, using own name and class file is not allowed. Creates a cyclic reference. So I can't do that. So that's fun. I will tackle that in a bit. For now, I'll put that back to how it was. I just have to make sure I don't shoot a location that I have selected. So I'll fix that bug. Let's go back to main, and let me go up to the top of my notes here and fix bug trying to shoot locations. There you go. I got that added. So let's talk about what I've done since last episode. So you guys saw what was going on, but let's go over how I did that. So first things first, I made ships land on planets and spawn every 5 to 10 seconds, because before I just made them like go up to the planet and then like they weren't doing anything. So when they get there, let's see what they do. So if I go back to my ship, and let me just, there's so many things I got open now. Minimize all this stuff. Manage, take damage, AI control. So I have AI control, so I added 2 new states. I added a state descend and a state ascend. So descend is where they like shrink and get smaller when they go to land, and then ascend is like if they spawn on a planet, they'll go back up and then be their original size, like they're coming out of the atmosphere and stuff, you know. Pretty cool. So let's see what I do for that. So for state idle, when we're determining what to do, I also added a variable called objective. So this determines like what the ship's objective is when they're in a certain state. So for example, if they're in the state move, what's their objective? Like, are they moving to go somewhere like on a patrol, or are they moving to go someplace to land on a planet, or are they moving far enough out of the system's you know, range so that they can hyperdrive away? So I came up with this objective thing. So here, like if they have objective dock, and this also helps determine like what their logic is. So for example, if they are, if they're idle and there's no immediate threats, there's no enemies, then what are they trying to do? So if our objective is to dock, then for now I just have like just pick a random location that we have. I set the target location to be that, and then I just set my state to be move. If I'm going, if my objective is to go to hyperspace, like zoom, like you know, zoom away, like go to a different system, then I just pick, for right now, like I'm just picking a random destination that's like 5,000 pixels out, and just go there. And then I'm setting my state to move. So I haven't done escort and patrol objectives yet, but I'm going to work on those. So let's go back to state move here. So a lot of this stuff is mostly the same, except now we have, you know, what's our objective. So we're checking, do we have a target location? So this is like we're actually trying to go to a location. If we do, if our objective is to dock somewhere, we want to make sure that we have some place to dock. If not, we're just going to go back to idle, and it'll take care of itself there. This ideally would never fire because I don't have a way to destroy locations yet. So before the state idle would even set the state to be move, they would have found a location. So this should never fire, but I added it just in case, whatever. So then I have this this variable called target position, which is just a vector 2, because whether you're trying to move to a planet to land or you're trying to move far enough out, you're going to a specific point. So I just set my to use the global position for that, so target position here, and then so if their objective is to not dock, then we're not going to any specific like instance. So we are just going to use our destination variable rather than target location. Now that I think about it, I could have just refactored this to just, you know, set the global position of the target location instead of this convoluted mess, but this is what I have working right now. And then all we're doing is we're just using that, and then we're updating our distance to target, and then all the rest of the stuff is still the same, except once we get there, you know, are we stopped? What's our objective? If our objective is to dock or land, then we transition to state descend. If our objective is to hyperspace, right now I want to figure out how I want to make them zoom out. So for now, I'm just deleting the instance. And then if we're patrolling, we'll just go back to state idle, and then for a default catch case for this match, switch statement, whatever, we'll just go back to state idle. So that's what we got going on there. Everything else is pretty much the same. Yeah. Now state ascend and descend are pretty simple. So descend, all we're doing is I'm setting a scale speed here. So I'm saying it should take about 2 seconds to like completely go from, you know, normal scale to scale down to nothing. It takes about 2 seconds. So I want to do, you know, about 0.50 scale per second. So you can see here I'm modifying scale X and scale Y, and I'm just doing scale speed multiplied by delta, the change in time. And then I'm ensuring that X and Y are symmetrical. So I'm calculating X, and then I'm just setting my Y to be the same as X. That way they're always symmetrical. And then I'm just checking, hey, is our scale less than or equal to 0? It means we've landed. Destroy the instance for now. Now, ascend is you start out. I made ascend a little bit faster, so I think it takes about 1.5 seconds to completely scale up, but it's probably like 1.3 or something like that if you math it right. I don't know. I was tired. So I'm doing the same thing, except I'm increasing my scale speed, and then I'm ensuring that my scale does not exceed 1, because I don't want anything weird. Making sure it's symmetrical, and then if my scale is greater than or equal to 1, I'm just going to idle state, and then the AI takes over from there. So that's what's going on there. Let's talk about how I'm spawning ships. So in my main, I have a lot of like messy to-do stuff here, but what I did is I added 2 variables. I added spawn ships, which is like just a simple Boolean, true or false. And I added a spawn timer, which is in seconds. Now, I could probably just use an actual timer node and just attach it to my actual main scene, but I just used to doing it this way in Game Maker, and it kind of works. So I just threw it here, even though it might make my code a lot cleaner if I actually just attach a timer node to my main scene and then just do things that way. So maybe I might refactor that just to be more Godot friendly, but it's working. So with these two in mind, what I'm doing here is that in the process event, if we are set to spawn ships, then we're just handling our timer here. Spawn timer minus equals delta, which is the change in time. So when spawn timer is less than or equal to 0, it's time to spawn a ship. So I have my test ships function, which I've been using. And then after I spawn a ship or whatever, I randomize my timer to between 5 and 10 seconds. And I just keep doing that over and over again. So the reason why I had to add the spawn ships variable is because, I'll show you, if we just set this to be true, which is what it would be normally if you didn't even have it, if you look on the title screen, look up at the very top left corner. Wait for it. There you go. A ship just spawned on my title screen. That's not what I want. So I only want to spawn ships in certain locations, like certain points, so not on the title screen. So I just set that flag there. That's good to go. So let's look at my test ships function. So a lot of this stuff was the same as it was before. I'm just getting a array of the ships that I can spawn, and then I have these itemized out so that I can comment out like ships I don't want to spawn for certain testing purposes, and then that way they're not part of the spawning pool. So it's just picking a random ship to spawn. And you could specify a number of ships to spawn. So if I want to spawn 50 ships at once, I can do that. When we're calling it with our spawner, we're only doing it one at a time. And all we're doing is we're just picking the random ship and instancing it. And then if we're doing multiple times, then we're refreshing our choice of a ship. We're adding that ship to the scene. And then we're picking if it's going to be faction, dudes, or bros. Randomizing the rotation. And then I have this thing that says, are we ascending from a planet or just entering the system? So I have a variable here called ascend, which is a Boolean. I set it to be true. And I just randomize something, which this should be 0 or 1. And this is how that works. And if it's 1, then ascend is going to be false. So then I'm just saying, hey, if we are ascending, then pick a random location. And then we're going to set our scale of the ship to be 0. And then we're going to set the ship's global position to be that of the location. We're going to set their state to state ascend. And we're going to set the ship's objective to be hyperspace. Like, they want to leave the planet and then go somewhere else. If they're not ascending, then the ship is just entering the system. So we're spawning them way out there. So between 4,500 to 5,200 pixels. Maybe it's not pixels. I don't know how Godot measures it, but it seems to be right. I don't know. Somewhere out there. And then we're rotating in a random, we're rotating wherever the ship is. Oh, right. I remember now. So so what we're doing is like when we spawn a ship, we make it face a random way. So say if it's facing here, what I'm doing is I'm setting a vector that is facing like the opposite way. So way out here, and I'm setting them to be like way over here, so that way they're already facing, and they just come in and then they go. Otherwise, like if I spawn them way out here, then they have to like rotate the way that they want to go and then come in. So that's what that's doing there, and we're setting their objective to dock. They want to land somewhere, so that's what they're doing. That's the changes I made. Again, a lot of this stuff is pretty ugly code, but it's working so far. So that's just how I've got that going on. getting a feel for how I want to handle those systems. I'm sure that once I get going, I'm gonna have a dedicated thing to spawning ships, because depending on the system that we're in, the star system that we're in might spawn different types of ships. So the ships might have different factions. So for example, if I'm in the territory of like faction dudes, there's probably going to be a lot more ships of faction dudes spawning there. And if they're on a border system to where they're say it's a contested system, there's going to be both factions spawning in and constantly fighting. So that's going to need some thought, but I got a proof of concept working for basic spawning stuff. So that's what we did there. So we covered this one here. Made ships land on planets and spawn every 5 to 10 seconds. Cool. Also made ships ascend from planets and fly away. I covered that. Move state ignored attacking enemies. Now they will react. So I did that. We go to my ship and we go to AI state move. I'm just simply checking, do we have any enemies? If we do, then stop moving and decide what to do. So they just return to stay idle, because stay idle is it's where I make a lot of the decisions for the ship on what they want to be doing. And then once they have a decision, then everything else is just executing the steps to do that decision. So that's how I solved that there. Thankfully, it was a pretty quick fix. I just thought it was kind of odd that, a ship was moving to a planet and I just start blasting them and they're just like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't bother me. So fix that. So we covered that item. Let's get rid of that there. Updated minimap markers. So that is a pretty cool change. I need to fix my ship so you can actually see the minimap. Let me go down here to my where is it? It's farther down. New game. We'll do player 1 or ship 1 instance. Here we go. So you can see my minimap here. You can see I've got little new markers that look pretty snazzy, and then I also colored them. So let's take a look at the minimap. So what I had before, if we go to my sprites down here and generated UI, so I had like neutral marker, friendly marker, and enemy marker. So I had separate assets for every color, even though they were basically the same thing. I didn't like that approach, so what I did is I refactored it to use colors. So I started looking into how Godot does colors. Does it in a bunch of different ways. You can do RGBA, you can do like the cyan, magenta, like whatever, yellow, like HP printer scheme or whatever you want to call it. And then it can also do just hex codes, and you can optionally include an alpha if you want it to be semi-transparent. So that's what I got working there. So I picked out 3 colors I liked, just using a hex color code thing online, like a hex color picker. So I found 3 I liked for neutral. So this is a slightly gray, ally is green, and then enemy is some sort of red. So that's what I did there. And then I have 2 separate markers. I have a ship marker, and I also have a location marker. So these were stuff that I AI generated until I found something I liked, and it works okay. Looks pretty good to me, so I'm pretty happy with it. So those were the big change I did there, and I did a few various code fixes to accommodate that, because it wasn't set to. It wasn't, and now that I look at this, I need to refactor this to use signals, because this is doing a whole lot of stuff every second. So I don't know, but right now, so it's running update marker list, which is just making sure, hey, make sure we have all the ships and locations in our list. A lot of stuff doing that. And then we're running update marker positions, which is just iterating through all of our markers and making sure that we're using the right marker, and that we have the right location and rotation set. So I had to do a slight refactor there. there's just a lot of code here. I didn't have to change much. It was just in a few spaces. So it's not too terribly different from when I first implemented the mini map. I just used colors and got these markers. In fact, I should probably get rid of these markers because they are no longer useful. I also have like the old mini map backgrounds too, which I can probably get rid of. Like that one is no longer useful. So we can get rid of these. Clean up my file a little bit. And I still have these like circuitry textures and stuff. I'm going to keep those for now, even though, you know, actually, you know what? I hate them. I'm not going to keep them. Actually, you know what? They're still part of the components. It'll crash my game if I delete those. So that's fine. So let me run it and see if it still runs. Okay, we're good. So the only thing I don't like is I think that my marker shows up underneath other markers, which is not ideal. So not sure how to fix that. Maybe I could draw the player marker last. That would be my only guess on how I would solve that. Yeah. Anyway, did that. So let's go back up to main here. So we talked about minimap. Can no longer attack members of your own faction. So this was another bug that I solved. If we run the game really quick here and look for a green marker on my map. Here we go. So let me try to shoot this guy. There you go. I saw a bullet go right through him, didn't hit him. Even though I have him selected, I can't shoot him. So that was... I think that was part of my ship when I go to fire weapons. Let me see. Fire weapons. Yeah, so my fire weapons, how I was doing that is I was duplicating my enemies array. And then I was seeing if we had anything selected. And this is the bug I ran into just earlier. I was trying to make sure it wasn't a location because we can only shoot ships. And if its faction doesn't equal my faction, then we can attack it. Now, I also have to add a case to where if somebody doesn't belong to a faction. So starting out, you might not belong to any faction. You're going to be a freelancer. Well, say if another ship is also a freelancer, with this logic, I wouldn't be able to shoot them. So I'll have to fix that. I'll do that when I tackle this problem. But that's how I did that. Just a quick fix there, and just if we I have a Boolean flag here, and if we set this flag to true, then we go through and we append it, and then we just fire weapons, and we include this temporary enemies array, so that when a weapon fires a projectile and it collides with somebody on the enemy list, it calls their take damage function, and then we add each other to the enemies list for real. And that's how we would do that. So yeah, so this just makes it so I can't shoot members of my own faction. So that's good there. Also fix potential faction problem. No faction. There we go. So I got that saved. So fix that. I also refactored some of the UI to use signals rather than constantly polling. So I'll show you what I mean by constantly polling. So, because I've only done it to half of the UI so far. So if we minimize all this stuff, let's look at our left side panel. So our left side panel, in the process event, we have a function here that we're calling, ostensibly like 60 times a second, called update UI data. And what this is doing is this is running through, and it's updating it's making sure that we have somebody who is selected, and then every step it's going through and it's setting the text for all these different labels and updating the values for all these shield percentages. When realistically, I don't need to do that. I only want to do that initially to populate, you know, what the labels are and the value for the health bars and whatnot. And then I only want to update it if something changes. So this is very inefficient because it's constantly polling. And well, guess what? If I run the game here and I click a ship, see this stuff here? This isn't changing, but this is still running like 60 times every second to get all this information, which is not ideal. Whereas it should only do it if you, like, say if I shoot him and his shields go down, then it should update. So what I did is I started playing with that on my right side panel, which is the panel on the right side that shows my ship information. So what I did is on my ship, I added some signals. So I have a signal for when my shields change, when my hit points change, and I also have a signal for when my speed changes, because I was going to add that, but I haven't added it yet. And these signals just have the value of what it changed to, and then our maximum value, so that we can calculate, you know, our health bars. And then whenever those change, I'm calling those. So I am emitting that signal. So let's go to, let's see, where, I think take damage is a good one. So if we go to our take damage function, right? If our shields take damage, we are emitting a signal, shields changed, and then the value is going to be shields, and then the max value is going to be shields max. And then what I'm doing is in my UI, where did it go? Right side panel. So I'm getting the player node, and then I'm connecting that signal to these little functions I have, like called update shields. And here I'm initializing the UI with those values. And if we go to update shields, this is just taking in the value and the max value of what it passes in. And then it's just updating only that UI element, rather than constantly polling and then updating everything. So this is a much better solution, and now I'm trying to make all this work. So I also implemented like weapon information. So if we go back in the game here, you can see I've got like light cannon, damage 3 to 5, cooldown 0.5 seconds, ammo infinite, right? So a lot of this stuff isn't going to change. But if my missile launcher, if you look, it says ammo 25. That's something that's probably going to change. So if I fire, you can see the ammo just went down to 24. So bam, I only had to do that. I emit a signal whenever the ammo goes down for that weapon. And what I'm doing is, on the ready event, I'm just iterating through every single of the player weapons. And then I'm getting the instance ID. And I'm basically just, I made this thing called weapon UI, which is just weapon info, which if you look over here, it's just a VBox container with a few labels in it right now. And I've got label for the description, damage, rate of fire, which is technically cooldown, and then ammo. So all I'm doing is I'm instancing that weapon info scene that I have. And then I'm just setting the initial values for them, and then I'm adding them to a dictionary. And the key I'm using for the key value pairs is the instance ID. I set it to a string. I don't think it needs to be a string, but I set it to be a string. And I'm just setting all these references to the actual UI elements so that I can manage those. And then I am connecting whatever signals I need to for that specific weapon to whatever functions I need. So for example, the ammo change signal is the only signal that my weapons emit right now. So anytime we receive the ammo change signal, we call this this function called update ammo, and it takes instance ID, so we can make sure that we're updating it for the right weapon, and then the value that it's going to be. So here we're just making sure, like, hey, do we even have this weapon in our list? Then if we do, then just set the text to be the new value. And on top of that, if we go to the weapon code, I'm only emitting the signal right now if it's a player. So because other ships could emit this signal, but I don't have a use for it right now. So I'm not tracking all of the weapons on the left side panel. Why won't it click? There we go. So I'm not like, so it says weapons detected, but I don't have all the details about it. So I'm not worried about that. So I only care about it here. So this was just like a proof of concept thing to see if it could work and if I can get it working. And it works with signals. So my next step, I think, is to go through and try to refactor left side panel to use signals, rather than constantly polling for all this data. So yeah, fun stuff. I feel a lot better with signals now. Signals for some reason just didn't click with me, but I think I've got a good feel for those now. So that's what I did there. And then the last thing I did is I fixed a bug to where explosions were always 100% volume. And it took a little bit to figure that out. But if we go to the audio manager, you might remember I had like a whole big episode about this thing and trying to solve all my audio issues, and it didn't seem to solve much. But what the audio manager thing that I created allows me to do is that if I want to play a one-off sound, I can do that without having to have my own sound player attached to the instance. And so I have this, let me see here. I've got a few functions. Like, so for example, I have play positional sound, which what this does is it takes 3 arguments. It takes the sound path, which is the string path of the actual sound file you want to play. It takes a global position, which is a vector 2. And then if you want to add a pitch variation, you can. And then it just calls this internal helper function I have, play sound. And what was happening is that when I shoot a rocket and that rocket collides with a ship and it explodes, it would make a, you know what, I think it would make an explosion, which is a particle effect. And then I think I had that particle effect try to play the sound. So what was happening is for my missile explosion, which is a particles 2D, when I call the audio manager, I just had global position in there before. But the problem is it was returning a 0 vector. So and that meant that my audio manager was thinking, oh, this is just play a sound, not a non-positional sound. So it was just making a normal audio stream player node rather than a 2D positional node. So I just changed this to be global position, which I probably don't even need to do, because I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to get rid of this, and then I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to save this, and then in my projectile code, when I'm going to do the impact, I think I'm just going to set it to play the sound there. That'd be a better solution. So, yeah, but basically the whole root of that problem is that doesn't seem to me that particle 2D has a global position flag, because this was 0 for some reason. So I don't know, but this way should work. So let's go ahead and test it really quick. Okay, let's see. You probably are. Why can't I click? There we go. Oh, that's a friendly. I gotta find someone who's not friendly. I'll just wait here for somebody to spawn. Come on, somebody show up. I got someone coming from the left over here I can probably snag. They're moving pretty slow, so they're probably a big ship. Here we go. So if I shoot that guy... There we go. So I'm going to let him try to shoot me. Actually, I'm going to shoot him. So if I shoot in his direction... There you go. The explosion sound is playing a lot farther away. Before, it would play like full volume and it would just be obnoxious. There we go. Perfect. Get wrecked, scrub. Stop shooting me. Rude. That missed. Come on, hit him. Oh, that missed. Okay, this should hit him. There we go. Yeah, so now the explosions sound much more distant, which is what I wanted. So perfect. That's fantastic. Cool. So bug fixed. So not how I originally fixed it, but much better. So there you go. That's what I've done since last episode. This is it's fun working on my game again. I'm starting to feel that a lot of things are really messy, and I don't know how necessarily to clean them up. So I'm just going to focus on the things I do know right now. So for example, trying to use signals as opposed to constantly polling for stuff. So yeah, that's what I'll do there. I also want to figure out what I want to do for this right panel UI, because this is just a wall of text and is useless. So I think I might get like some icons for something. So maybe I might make a little icon for the light cannon, and little icon for like what the damage is, and then like a cooldown icon and ammo, and then that way I can condense those into maybe one line. And then it would look a lot cleaner that way, I think. And I could even color code some of the stuff to add a little, to stand out a little more. Maybe I might underline the description or something. I don't know. Lots of stuff to do. I also still have to figure out how to handle the dynamic sizing of this, because for some reason I can't. I thought the aspect ratio container would, you know, keep that aspect ratio. But if I don't click expand, I only want it to take up as much space as it needs, and instead it's taking up half of the space. Or I can shrink it and it could take up a certain part, and that might be an okay solution, but I just want it to just lock at that and then free up the rest of this. It's not working how I'm used to, so I'm still getting used to the Godot UI stuff, but it's getting there. Starting to get the hang of it, so. But it's gonna take some work. I'm pretty happy with how the minimap looks now, so I'm happy with that. Now I just want to figure out how to make the rest of the UI look better, and add more details on here without just cluttering up a lot of nonsense. And yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next episode.